we're in the back of the Suburban right now. You guys remember this? This is the compressor, manifold, and air tank for the big rig horns, the air horns that I have in this truck. And everything's working perfectly. Don't get me wrong, everything's beautiful, but you know me, I always gotta mess with stuff a little bit. It's holding air perfectly. This pressure sensor switch is set for a cut in at 80 and cut off at about 120. And it works well. It does. It really does. And this is at what, about 95 right now. Likely I've blasted it a couple times, yeah, to bring it down. This is it's funny, the air horns on this truck are an awful lot like the throttle, the secondaries, or the gas pedal on the old GTO. You know, every time I get in that thing, I've got to test them out. And you know, I can't take a trip even around the block in the GTO without getting into the secondaries, and same thing with the Suburban. I can't take a trip without tooting the horns. And honestly, I can't recall one incident when I've had to blast those air horns out of some sort of emergency situation. It's yeah, it's always just a toot toot hello kind of thing, or just a blast under an overpass because I like hearing it, you know, just one of those things. But it is one of those things. But where are we here? So this is the Grover compressor. This is the one that I made the cylinder head for, and I'll pull it out here in a minute and take a look at what's going on. And I have this one. This is a Hadley air compressor. It's a belt driven unit. Now, the drawback that I've found with this setup, being that it's on the inside of the vehicle, it has its pros and cons. The drawback is the sound, and that's really the only. It takes up a very little footprint. Quite honestly, that's not a drawback to me, because it's not like it's taken up critical space. But it makes noise when it compresses air. And of course, if I didn't step on that pedal as much as I do, this thing wouldn't be compressing as much as it does. But it is what it is, and it's loud, and it takes a good 4 minutes to go from 80 to 120 to get that last 40 psi in there. It's a good 4.5 minutes of that compressor running, and it's noise. It is what it is. And I'm wondering if this compressor here, this little Hadley, wouldn't be quieter. First off, because it's a belt-driven drive, and if you guys have ever dealt with direct drive compressors versus belt-driven compressors of the full-size variety, the belt-driven ones are typically quieter. So I want to give this one a try. I'm assuming that this one will pump air quicker. I'm hoping get me more volume of air in there, so it won't run as long. And I'm hoping it's a little bit quieter. It's hard to say because this isn't direct drive; it's geared, obviously. This won't be spinning as fast as the other one. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know. So let's pull this out. I'm gonna throw it on the workbench, and let's give her a test and see how she does. So I went ahead and brought the air system into the shop here. I have it hooked up to my Iota DLS 55, which is a 55 amp 12 volt power supply. It's a monster. It's a monster. You remember, this is the Grover model 1167 with the homemade cylinder head and the heatsink. Okay, so I just ran the compressor up to its cutoff to make sure we were topped out. It cuts off at 120. I was running this for a while at 135, but I don't think I was doing the compressor any favors by making it work that hard. So a couple months ago, I backed it down to shut off at 120, which I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent. But let's go ahead, and I'm going to bleed it down to its cut on. And I'll start the digital timer that my little pal Rusty is hanging on to, and we'll see how she sounds. And see if you can see that. 4 minutes and 33 seconds to get the pressure. So let me go ahead and swap it out with this Hadley horn air compressor, and let's see how long that takes. So with the hot swap complete, I didn't swap over the pressure switch. This one does not have a pressure switch on it, I didn't want to get everything swapped over because, quite honestly, I wasn't even sure if this had a check valve. But I turned the tank back on. There's 120 pounds exactly of pressure in here. So I guess there's an internal check valve in the head, which is awesome. And if this proves that this is a more efficient compressor, I'll go ahead and swap that adjustable pressure switch off the Grover. And I will put the Grover on the other air compressor project I have in store for either one of these two compressors. So Rusty, are you ready? Let's go ahead and fire this baby up. And let's see where we go from here. What did we cut in? Oh, you know what? I did take some measurements. I pulled this cover off, and this actually has 1 1/16" diameter piston, which is huge. That's huge. I know that Grover's only, I think it's only 5/8 of an inch, the width of that compressor. So this one's 1 1/16", and I can measure it from down here. I pull this. This has a intake valve and an air filter and everything built into the base. And anyway, so that's got quite a bigger bigger piston, so I'm hoping it moves some more air. But enough talking, more airing. All right, let's go. £120, oops, 2 minutes and 32 seconds to go from 80 to 120. Honestly, I don't think the sound is any less. I don't think it's any more. I'm gonna have to listen to this on the video, but according to my ears, it sounds about the same sound-wise, but speed of fill is half the time. Old Rusty's at 2 minutes and 32 seconds. I think you can see that. I like that. Thanks, buddy. Good job. Go back to sleep. Yeah, so yeah. And it's holding air. It's holding air like a mofo. So the Grover's not going in the scrap pile, not by any way, shape, or form. I had a plan to do an onboard system with one of the little ranch tractors. Anyway, I was going to make that kind of have some sort of service ability to it and have an air tank to fill tires and bikes and cars and stuff. So anyway, that's what I was thinking with this. I was going to do with this one, but this one's pretty sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and swap over the pressure switch and put it back in the truck, and let's see how she goes. So there she is. She's mounted down on the little rubber feet, the little motor mounts that I have. There's 4 of them. That mounts that quite nicely. I continue to use this red line because it's a little bit longer. I'd rather have a little leeway in there. And I don't know, it's just a cleaner, more compact compressor compared to this one. Not that there's anything wrong with this Grover, but with the whole stacked deal here, it's tall and narrow. This one's a little shorter, sits out a little more, but who doesn't love a fat guy with steam coming out of his ears, right? Well, there she sits. There she sits, and we're stalled for the day. We're stalled because this plug is 1/8 inch. This pressure switch is 1/4 inch. So, and I don't have the fittings here. I don't have enough little brass pieces here. I don't do much work in 1/8 inch. I've got a ton of 1/4 inch, 3/8 and 1/2 inch brass, but I don't have much 1/8 inch. So, by the time I go to the stove and I get an 1/8 inch close nip and then an 1/8 to 1/4 inch adapter, I'm going to be $12 to $16 in brass, or I can just go on Fleabay right now for under $10 and have one shipped to my door. So I'm going that route. Either way, both these compressors need pressure switches, so you know, for the interim, if I could have adapted that to that, I would have, but I can't, so I won't, and I'm not going to spend the money on brass and then still have to buy a pressure switch for that. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? All right, gotta go. I'm going to take this and set this on the bench here. I'm going to leave it under pressure to make sure everything here is nice and airtight, which I'm feeling pretty confident it is. And then I'm going to take my my Speed Air porta-tank and throw that in the back of the Suburban, because you remember all the fittings are nice, easy, quick releases, so they're all standard. All right, that's it. I got to go. See you guys later. See ya!